two. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Colorado Christian Conservative Political. I'm your host, Joe Hunt, and today we have a special guest, and of course, I'm going to mess up the name as usual, Phil Covarrubias.
Covarrubias.
Covarrubias. Welcome, Phil. Thank you so much for joining the studio today, my brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I know. I'm always thankful for people that are willing to share their time to come to some weirdo's basement and record some interview. So I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you. And if you guys don't know, Phil is actually running for, let me pull up my notes here, Adams County Commissioner.
District 5.
District 5. So, again, welcome, my brother. Thank you for coming down. But the other thing is Phil is not new to the political arena. Am I right?
That's right.
Can you share a little bit of your background prior to running for commissioner, if you would, please?
I started off about 8 years ago with on the Brighton Planning Commission because I've been in the excavation and infrastructure business my whole life, gas and oil, the whole 9 yards. And so I knew I could at least offer some help and guidance in that department on the Planning Commission as we were working to develop Brighton and what that looks like moving out east and all of that. From there, I ran for state representative in House District 56, which is
Right.
Adams and Arapahoe County, and very grassroots, wife and kids and friends and family, everybody helped, and we went out with our message to combat the communism and socialism that's ravaging our country.
Right.
We won. Now, I didn't know much about how it all worked at that point. I was finishing up some of my projects at XL Energy. I was a lead foreman installing gas, electric, and all of that in the energy business. And so when I turned in my equipment and trucks and my line bag, I went down to the Capitol in a suit and started running bills.
Yeah.
You have to run 5.
Okay.
And so the 5 bills I ran were the 5 top things that I heard on the campaign trail because I wanted to represent the people the way that this job is supposed to be done.
Right. Okay. And I don't mean to jump ahead, because I do want to get into your resume and your background.
Sure.
But the one thing that gravitated me towards you was your blue-collar background, that blue-collar work ethic, which I've been saying this on my podcasts for a while, is I believe we need more of it because something's been lost in politics, and we blue-collar folk have seemed to be left behind. I know I work in the gas and oil industry, and the current administration has completely demonized us, and it seems like the progressive leftist agenda altogether is kind of over us, my industry, which is my livelihood, which is one of the reasons why I got so active into this, because I don't want to see my livelihood dissipate, and it seems that is a part of that far left agenda. So one, that gravitated me towards you, but two, your service for our country, because you are in fact a vet, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, United States Marine Corps.
United States Marine Corps. Thank you, my brother, for your service to this country. Thank you for your sacrifice for my family. We appreciate it. So,
thank you.
Would you like to speak to any of those two topics real quick? Being a blue collar and then being a vet, because I know as I'm reading through your platform, it's played being in the military is playing it's played a big role in your life, right?
Sure.
So
absolutely.
can you speak to that a little bit for us, my brother?
Well, my family's originally from Rocky Ford, and we were farmers and sugar beets and onions and cantaloupes and all that. And if you wanted to get out of the town and try to do something with your life, the military was a good way to see the world and get a higher education. So my uncles, aunts, cousins on my mom and dad's side, everybody has been military in our family. And so I grew up in Arvada. I graduated in 1986, and I joined the United States Marine Corps as a combat engineer. I love my country.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Back in the days when we used to have the scouts and we used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, we used to love our country. We were taught in the education system to love our country, not to hate it.
Right.
And I've been on operations all over the world, and I've seen what communism and socialism does to these poor people in these countries. And when you actually see that, when you actually have to live in that culture, you are very, very grateful for what America offers us as citizens.
Yeah, yeah. I argue often with coworkers that America is still the freest and best country. And one of my coworkers, he's so funny. I love him, but he's like, "No, it's not." I go to Mexico twice a year. And I'm like, yeah, but you're there on a vacation.
Right.
There's a
Right.
big difference. Talk to people who are from Mexico. And then I found this girl online who shares her testimony of, dead bodies laying. And we often forget that, of the systems that we have in America that make us great, like the police department, like the FBI, the CIA, where they take an investigation seriously, and it's their lifelong duty to find those perpetrators, those murderers. Whereas in Mexico, it's like, another dead body. It's just another Tuesday, right? From the testimonies that I've heard from people coming from that country. So I still, for one, believe that America is the freest and best country. And of course, my opinion's a little biased, right? Because I live here. But even like the Constitution, right? And that was the one thing I asked you before inviting you here. Do you love the Constitution? and you responded with a resounding yes. I love the Constitution.
Absolutely.
So thank you, brother. I love your patriotism, and so what? Let's start with the national, scene. What do you feel like this country is reached a divide that's too far to bridge, or are you more hopeful than most?
Oh, I'm very hopeful. What this looks like, when President Trump said he was going to drain the swamp, all the swamp creatures came out. Their masks are off, as it were. They were able to hide behind these communist agendas for a long time. And once he became president and started revealing the truth about what's going on in Washington, well, of course, these people like Pelosi and Schumer and Biden, who have been there for 40 plus years and have made millions and millions for their families, for themselves, off of these corrupt deals, of course they're going to yell and scream and like cockroaches when you turn the lights on. Right. But it's also very sad to see what's happening, because you have George Soros, who funds a lot of these hate groups to go out and cause the destruction that's happening with our history, our monuments, our state capitol, our beautiful cities that blue-collar guys like me built, and these monuments that were carved to people to represent the sacrifices they made for this country. Of course, America is not perfect, but is there a country out there that is?
Right.
And I think not. One of the things that I really think about is that people talk a lot about if you're people. Gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, let's put it like this. In my opinion, if you were born in America...
Nationalist, right?
No. Everybody's talking about equal rights and all of that kind of stuff, and equality. And I realize that we do need to look at some of these issues. But the fact of the matter is that if you're born in America, you could be born a crack baby, left on the steps of the firehouse, and become something with your life. Right. You're not going to get that in a socialist or communist country. Right. So everybody that's born here, regardless of your race, creed, color, religion, regardless of any of that, because of the Constitution, gives all of us an opportunity, if we're willing to work for it, to make something with our lives for ourselves and our families and for our community.
Right. And hello, you guys who know my ministry, who have followed me, that's my story. And I wasn't necessarily left on the doorsteps, but I was raised single home, crack addict, gangs, drugs, and I was able to turn my life around. And that's the freedom that capitalism gives you, right? And you see this scary shift into a communist state, which, believe me, it terrifies me, brother. I've been able to make it in this life because of the system I was born into, where we do have equality, and it's about work ethic, not about race, not about skin color.
That's right.
Are there injustices? Of course there is. There's injustices everywhere. Is racism real? Yes, of course it is. There's always going to be a racist people. But is America systemically racist? I would say no. I would say no. As a brown man who's been able to pull himself up out of the ghetto, out of gangs, out of drugs, and make something of myself, and I would say, you're blue collar man who's been able to work hard, and you're brown too, just like I am.
Amen.
You roll your R's.
I do, brother. I do.
I don't have any R's to roll, but I'm just as brown as you, brother. But we've been able to do something with our life, and so it does sadden me. It does sadden me to see the system that has allowed people like yourself and I to be blessed. That system, same system, being demonized. And what's even scarier is where the demonization is taking place, and that would seem to be school.
Yes.
Far
Yes.
left, radical, democratic educational system.
That's right.
Do you have anything to speak on that, brother?
Well, we could talk for an hour. That's a whole show. Just in itself. It starts in kindergarten.
I agree.
K through 12.
Yeah.
And the real rub is I always hear that there's never enough money for education, more money, more money, more money, because the Democrats think that if you just constantly throw money at an issue that they're going to fix it. The problem is that they created the problem, then they blame everybody else for the problem they created and say, well, if you just give us more money, we'll fix it this time. Right. And the problem is that over 90% of our educators are left or far left at K through 12 and at university.
Yeah.
And the administration fees and costs for the amount of people that we have is astronomical.
Yeah.
In California alone, and I'm sure it's this way in all over the country, but you have 280,000 college students and 230,000 school administrators. I mean, how many people do you have to have on the payroll? And then you wonder why the money doesn't funnel down to the students or to the actual teachers themselves.
Right.
What I would like to see is, you got to love the good teachers.
Right.
I can come up with 4 right now
They
that
exist?
changed my life when I was young. There's some good ones out there. But and I would love to see them make the good money. But the problem is you have many that are just trying to teach our kids how to protest.
Right.
They're not teaching them the real history.
Right.
Because the Democrat Party are the ones, in fact, the ones who were the KKK, BLM, Antifa, these hate groups. They base everything off of race, and then they call everybody else a racist.
Right.
Well, for me, you're an American. You're American. I don't
Yeah.
care what color you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what you do in your personal life. We all have to answer to God at the end of the day. My job is to do the best I can for the American people and for young people to be able to aspire to make something with their lives.
Come on, brother. Amen. Preach it. That's why I brought you here, bro. Because I
Thank you.
I love your character. I love your position. And I'm hoping that you can continue to make a difference in politics. So you do feel like there's hope. You do feel like we can band together as a nation. If you had to list your top 3 things that need to be done in order for that to happen, what would they be?
Well, the main thing that I really worked on when I was at the state capitol is career and technical education.
Yeah.
When we look at, because I'm a tradesman and I've worked in the trades my whole life with my family as well. We all come from construction, many, many years, decades, in fact.
Yeah.
Is how do we get young people who don't necessarily want to go to a 4-year college, or maybe that's not the way that they learn the best. I learned by doing, by building, by, a little bit of books, a little bit of hands-on, and I'm really good with that. And I know there's a lot of people out there like me that do that. The other thing that I've seen is that in apprenticeship programs, you get to earn while you learn. And they're very disciplined programs because being in gas and oil and being in the energy business, it's very dangerous. I've seen guys welding on live high-pressure gas mains, and they had to learn how to do that without explosions, right? They've had to learn how to get out there and climb up these poles and work with this high-powered electricity and not get cooked. And that does happen. We lose linemen and pipe fitters every single year, and men get buried in trenches every year. So we make sure that we follow the safety and we do the best we can. But the other end of that is getting rid of a lot of the red tape and bureaucracy that our government has placed upon our businesses. They will regulate you right out of business and right off of profit. The next thing I really think is important, especially for Adams County, is gas and oil, because without gas and oil, nothing else happens. And you have to get the gas out of the ground. Then you need the pipe fitters to put the pipe together to run the gas down to the Cherokee station. You've got to burn the gas to make the steam, to turn the turbines in order to get that electricity down the line. Even if you're plugging in your car, you are using natural gas and oil. And so I try to educate people on that and make sure that they realize that when you turn on your lights or the air conditioner or the heater, that it's not magic. There's men and women and families that are out there working their buns off to make sure we have this energy that sustains us. And the fact of the matter is we keep it pretty cheap. Here in Colorado especially. And I would say, issue number 3 would be, our patriotism to this country and really look at the real history of America, because it was the Republican Party who fought the war to free the slaves, and it was the Republican Party who fought for your civil rights. It was not the Democrat Party who did this. And I think a lot of the reason why they don't teach that in school is because they are always trying to push their narrative. You see it on MSNBC, CNN, all of these networks. And but I do want to say this, kind of going back when you mentioned hope. The reason why I maintain hope is because of God. Because I know, and I see it on my social media, that there are a lot of people that don't say anything, the silent majority we call them, that are praying, praying for our leaders, that are praying for our religious leaders. And I say open up the churches. I wouldn't even put up with these mandates anymore if I was a church. If I was a pastor, my church would be open, and you're going to have to come shut me down. And I think that it's time that they stand up too. Open every church in this town, open them everywhere. So that's where the hope comes from, is that I think that America's finally starting to wake up, and through our prayers, I really feel like Mike Pence and President Trump are really going to help us get through this situation.
So you're definitely a MAGA man, which I'm a MAGA man myself. God bless you. I salute you.
Absolutely.
And people are so down on 2020. I saw a meme yesterday. It was like, when will 2020 become a curse word? Because 2020 has just been so bad. But I view it differently. I view it as, when an enemy is about to lose, he becomes desperate, and he exerts all of his ammunition to avoid that loss. And that's how I see 2020. I don't see 2020 like a big drag. I see the swamp being drained, and I see an enemy that has been secretly hiding in the shadows for the last 100 years being, eliminated. And I see patriots rising like yourself. There's a girl I follow in Florida, something Luna. She just won, and she's a grassroots conservative movement, and you see it happening all throughout the nation, where people are just kind of like tired of the elitist and the swampish, politics, where it's just a money grab. It would seem to be, it's just a money grab. People are like, oh, I know how to make millions. I'm going to get into politics. And it's not, what can I do for my community? What can I do for my constituents? What can I do for my people? It's, what can I do to line my pockets and the pockets of my children? Like you said, the Pelosi's and the Bidens of the politics.
I'd like to comment on that
please.
quick, if I could. As a lead foreman at XL Energy with my crew, I was making $100,000 a year plus another 25 in benefits. Very good, solid job, safety, and all that. And we went out with the crews and worked every day. When I went down to the state capitol, I went from that 125 a year they only pay you $35,000 a year to be a state representative or a senator at the state level.
Ouch.
And then they do pay you per diem, but I live in Brighton, so it's not that. It's only 24 miles, so it's not like. And so my wife and I decided to do this. Yes, she does well, and she's educated, and she works for the state often.
Yeah.
But the sacrifice that we made, we basically lost $100,000 a year for 2 years. But this was what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And so I always believe if you're going to live in faith and you're really going to mean it, not just talk about it, but mean it, then you do what God says and you do the work and let him have the outcome.
Yeah.
And so we it really hurt our family. I don't have a lot of money in my Adams County account running for commissioner. We've raised maybe $4,000 in a year. I've got probably $200 in my account right now.
Wow.
Because every time we do get a little bit money, we buy signs or literature or stuff like that. But most of this comes out of even her and mine's pocket because it's really hard to ask people for money. That's the worst part of this job, especially during COVID and all of the things we've been through lately.
Right.
But so not all of us are in this, definitely not in it for the money or fame or any of that. I didn't know if I'd get back into politics because it was such a drain on my family.
Yeah.
And but when God called me again, I said, okay, whatever you want.
Right.
I'm here to do your work so that I can be the best I can for the American people.
Oof, bro, thank you so much, man.
I mean that too. I'm not just saying.
Yeah.
I grace
Well,
God. I
you
mean
have
that.
the fruits to back it up, right? You walked away from a 6-figure job, secure. You could have just been putting in your 401k. You could have just been getting ready for retirement. Yep. So that, to me, is evidence of your convictions, right? God put it on my heart so heavy that I walked away from 6 figures, benefits, 401k.
Amen.
To make 30. I remember what it was like to live off 30,000. It's not easy, bro. I started on 30,000, you know?
Sir.
And so that's evidence of your convictions. It's evidence of your fruit. And I promise you, the word says what man gives up for his kingdom's sake, he will be rewarded tenfold. And I'm believing that for you. And I hope, bringing you on our platform, we can get some people to pitch in, man, because you're right. It's a pride thing. I don't know if it's a pride thing, embarrassment, but asking for help, asking for money is a tough thing to do. So I hope and pray you, my listeners, would pitch in and help this brother, because you can see he's got the evidence to back up his convictions. So thank you, bro. And, God bless your wife, because I know that's explaining that to your wife. Like, babe, hey, I'm leaving a 6-figure job to go serve our people.
And you want to know what's beautiful about that?
Yeah.
She said, I'm going to be your campaign manager.
Oh, man.
And then she was. And then we won.
What's her name?
Tanya.
Tanya, God bless you. Thank you
bless
so
you.
much.
Oh, my
Behind
gosh.
every great man is a great woman.
Absolutely.
I believe this
She's
because
amazing.
it's the truth in my life. And so, Tanya, thank you for your service and your sacrifice and your children. Yes. I mean, that they went from a certain living standard to here, right?
Yes, my sons Nick and Eric, and
and
we own a small excavation company today, and they are my crew, my 2 boys, 15 and 17, but they have been for many, many years. We grew up working. I grew up out in the field since I was 10 years old, working, and so my son's the same thing.
Yeah.
But you know what's odd, this is something my grandmother taught me.
Yeah.
She never had any money, little house in Rocky Ford, raised 5 kids by herself. Of course, my dad was the oldest. He helped her as he was in the military and growing.
Right.
But she cooked for everybody. She was the main cook. They called her the tamale lady because she made the best tamales you ever find. Green chili, tortillas, everything on the stove all the time. And people would come to the house, buy a couple of dozen.
Yeah.
And people who were just hungry would come to her house and she'd feed them.
Yeah.
And so there was always people over there. And I always wondered, I'm like, Grandma, you don't have any money. You iron people's sheets and you clean offices to make money and you sell tortillas, but you feed everybody.
Wow.
I mean, whether they paid or not, she fed everybody.
Yeah.
And so I seen that as a little boy and growing up.
Yeah.
If you're giving it to God, you never run out.
Yeah.
So Even though it's been very, very tough financially on the family,
Yeah.
we still have our house, grace of God. We still have a car. We still get out there. I'm here in front of you,
Yeah.
working towards the next goal,
Yeah.
and living a good life in faith and
Right.
and in comfort, knowing that God's got my back no matter what.
Amen, bro.
And so I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this because I'm doing what God asked me to do. I get to have fun doing it.
Yeah.
This is fun. I'm out
Yes.
enjoying this.
Well, I'll tell you this. You just went from here to here in my book, right? Which is why I love inviting people on the show so that, one, we can get to know them more intimately.
Sure.
Because I think it's important you know the people that are representing you. You know the people that are supposed to be fighting for your best interests, right? And so just sharing your story, your testimony, bro, has already increased my respect and my zeal for your campaign, bro.
Thank you. That's humbling.
So let me know how I can help. So I don't know if you can speak to this, and you have a little bit, but what is Colorado politics like? I mean, you did, what, 2 years in House of Representatives?
I did, and
What was that like?
so I get down there, and I didn't even know where the bathrooms were because they have all these big doors, And this building that was built, just an incredible piece of architecture and brass and marble, and it's just the artwork.
Yeah.
The grounds and everything that the state capitol is, and the Golden Dome and all the history and the chandeliers and the paint and every single piece of that building. That's why to see it destroyed so much by the left breaks my heart because of this place is beautiful. You just walk through it in awe. I can't believe I'm even here.
Right.
I just was in a backhoe and an excavator 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Now I'm walking through the Capitol, and, So I'll try to make a long story short. So you run your bills, you try to find your niche,
Yeah.
you see what needs to be done. Oftentimes in the education system, well, we've already done that. Okay, well, let's narrow it down.
Yeah.
I got to a place where we passed legislation for high school kids that the counselors and the teachers at least twice a year will have to give them an opportunity to see other avenues of higher education than just a 4-year college degree, plus the debt that comes with that, and usually lack of an income once they get their degree, usually.
Yep.
And so, you do have the military and trade schools and that sort of a thing. And so as I was doing that, I went and visited the trade schools, Emily Griffith, Pitkins, Warren Tech.
Yep.
These schools are incredible. Everything from culinary, cosmetology, welding, HVAC, electricians. I mean, and it's very inexpensive.
Yes.
But what these schools needed was money.
Yeah.
Now, we give hundreds of millions of dollars to CU and CSU.
Right.
God bless them.
Yeah.
But I ran a bill for $10 million, seeing the need that these schools, so that they could open up. We had people testing out in 45-foot trailers for welding because there's no room. Right. There's a backlog of kids that want to get into these schools, but they can't expand their buildings,
right?
Because they don't have the money.
Yeah.
Because these big schools get all the money because of the money in politics, right?
Yep.
Here's the God's honest truth, and this is what happened. I ran that bill for a year. It was my main focus to get these schools that money. They had the land. They couldn't expand.
Yeah.
On the last day of session, Crisanta Duran, Speaker of the House, Democrat, had my bill, and we were going to pass it, and she showed it, and she threw it in the trash right in front of me. I'm still mad about that today.
My goodness.
Threw it in the trash. I went to committee. I gave them hell. I really worked them over. And they all felt, they knew, because the Democrats are always touting education, blue collar. They don't care about us.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
And then that same $10 million went to the university that fall, where she just happened to be a professor. Starting that fall. She gave the money to them. That's the corruption.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I saw that I thought was very bad is, I have a lot of people asking me, Phil, you need to unify us. Why aren't you unifying us? You're not speaking in unity. Well, normally that's left-wing people saying that. And I ask them, look, I'll work with you.
Yeah.
But you find a Democrat that's willing to be unified with me.
Right.
You find one that's willing to work with me, and we'll sit down as long as it's constitutional and it's proper legislation, it's good for the American people. Right. Let's run it together.
Right.
But I don't see that from
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
All it is exactly opposite of anything that's good. But then they show up to the union meetings and all of that so they can get their check, and because it's low hanging fruit for them, They show up to my union meeting,
Right.
asking them for endorsements and money,
Yeah.
but then work like heck to kill the very jobs, pipe fitters and gas and oil guys, that they're taking an endorsement from.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, an incredible amount. You'll really leave your heart and soul there, because the people, the real issues of real people is incredibly heartbreaking. But one of the things that was big is I was on the finance committee, so where's all the money going?
Yep.
And I was on the health insurance and environment committee. Well, before the hearings, I would have lobbyists come up to me and say, "Where's your vote? Where's your vote?" Well, I haven't heard the people speak yet, so how can I have a vote? Oh, everybody already knows where they're at on this bill or that bill or this bill.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'm not going to serve like that.
Yeah.
Because you see all these Coloradans here? They drove from Montrose. They drove from Needles. They drove from all over, 5 hours, got a hotel, brought their kids. And for 5 or 10 minutes to share their story, and you already have your vote in, that's not how I'm going to serve it. And it's no wonder why politicians have such a bad name.
Yeah.
But for me personally, because this is working for God first, so that I can work for the American people, I voted based on the testimony of the American people, the Colorado people, not based on party line politics.
Yeah. God bless you, bro. We need more Phils in office. This is why we do this, ladies and gentlemen. To inspire, to encourage, and to call to action people like Phil, who will go in there and represent us and not be swayed by the lobbyists and not be swayed by partisan politics. God bless you, bro. Thank you, man. I feel like hugging you right now. I want to give you a hug, bro.
We're going to get one, brother. We're going to get one for sure.
Dang, so it is just as swampy as we all thought it was, and it's just as swampy as DC.
It's horrible.
So what would your message be to people like you, like me? I mean, do you encourage blue collar folks to run and to serve and to try to make a difference in that arena?
Absolutely, and it's at the local politics is where a lot of this starts. If we could get some more conservatives, blue collar, people, American minded people, to get on the school boards. To get on the planning commissions, the zoning commissions, to run for office at the state level or whatever that looks like. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Because, and pray about it. And when God says to do it, do it.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, nobody knows you. You're never going to win. You don't have the money. You don't. The first time I ran, everybody told me this.
Yeah.
And I just got on my knees every day and every night and throughout the day. God, whatever you want. God. And trust me, there's times when you're thinking, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
This doesn't feel right. I'm broke. I'm hurting. I can't, I'd like to do this and I'd like to do that and I can't. And everybody's going on vacation. And because I quit my job to do this, I can't even do that, But you know what you do? You get the kids and the wife and the dogs and you go to Bar Lake. It's $8 and you go walk. Amen. You go up to the mountains and you go by the river. You don't all, there's always ways to do this. But I encourage people to get involved. But really and truly, especially with young people, is look at the truth. Yeah. Really look at the history, because we are not being taught the real history of our country. Right. And all they do is demonize America. Constantly, you see Michelle Obama the other night. Oh, my God, yeah. She demonized this country out of her $12 million mansion at Martha's Vineyard, demonizing our country. Yeah. Yeah. That built her, that built Bernie Sanders, that built all Nancy Pelosi. They all have mega $1 million mansions while they try to tell us that socialism is what's best for us. It's disgusting, and disgrace. Those of us who are, study history and study communism and see what it's done, we see it. Mm-hmm. But it would seem that generation, and that's why I'm anti-college, man, because it would seem college has become liberal indoctrination camps. Amen. And I got 4 kids. I'm like, y'all ain't going to college. I ain't paying for you to come back a radical leftist who hates America. Tearing down statues. Yeah, no, that's not happening. I'm with you. Trade school, it's what I did. I worked my way from the bottom up.
And so I'm with you, man. I love that position you hold. But I definitely see, and it scares me, because speaking back to your, compromise or unity, right? Their definition would seem to be bow down and follow us. That's unity to them.
Right.
Because they don't believe in the Constitution. They want something new. It would seem that the Democratic Party of today really is anti-constitutional.
Oh, gosh.
And so when you say let's unify or let's collaborate or let's compromise, I don't see any room for those things because of the ideological gap that exists. Where you're a constitutionalist, you believe in this country, you know the history of this country, how we escaped a monarchy,
Right.
right?
Right.
Which is communism,
Yeah.
in another word or another form, a king, and you understand that, and so the left would not seem to understand that, and so they're like their idea of unity or compromise or collaborating is follow me, or bow down to our agenda. And if not, you're a racist, you're a homophobic, you're a bigot.
You're everything.
Identity politics, right?
Amen.
So, my listeners, please don't fall for the identity politics. Don't fall. Do the history and vote what is going to help your family, your future. And I promise you, capitalism is the way to go.
Well, it's funny you should say that. Let's look
Yeah.
at this. Because of capitalism, yes, COVID's been tough, and God bless the businesses and the restaurants and everybody that are closing down unnecessarily. By the way, this is from the tyranny of polis.
Yeah.
But because the system of capitalism works, when there's a problem over here, the business world, it creates new openings over here. So now driving jobs and delivery jobs are really exploding. There's a lot of different companies that rise out of the mess that's COVID-19 because of capitalism.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing that'll offer the businesses that are struggling to stay alive a chance to survive.
Yeah.
And so many people. My dad mortgaged our house to get a loan to buy a backhoe and a little truck when I was in 1980, when I was a kid. We had nothing. And built a multi-million-dollar out of working 17 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep.
That's his famous line. My kids and I always tease him about that because that's what he says. You got to be out there 17.
What's his name?
Phil.
God
Senior.
bless you, Phil Senior.
God bless you, Phil Senior. And I really want to see our businesses open back up. I want to see people get their freedoms back and stop living in fear.
Yeah.
Because and I'll say this, I think the big difference between the radical left and the right is on the right, for the most part, we know that there's a God and we're not it.
Yeah.
On the left, their religion is communism and socialism.
Yeah.
There's no God.
Yeah.
Their God is their party.
Right.
And so you can really see the evil,
Yes.
the honest evil, even
Yes.
in their faces and in their makeup.
Yeah.
When they're giving a speech, you see it come through.
Yeah.
And it's a very much of a spiritual war more than it is Republican and Democrat, in my opinion. This is really good versus evil, and we get to be the soldiers for God.
And I say this often, it ends in revival, it ends in a rapture, or it ends in a war. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I see this happening, because that gap is so wide. But I'm praying, man. I truly am praying that we can, because there was a point in time where the atheist and the believer could walk side by side, understanding, hey, we both escaped tyranny.
Right.
Remember?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
We both escaped tyranny, so let's not get into each other's business. Let's live and let live.
That's right.
And we'll do what's good for the common good. That's right. And that seems to have been lost. But if we can get back there, where the believer and the non-believer, the left and the right, the Democrat and the Republican can walk hand in hand, knowing the evils that exist, remembering the evils that we escaped, and say, hey, let's just live and let live, I think we can do it. I'm hoping and I'm praying. I'm going to do my part, man. So we are approaching our hour. I want to give you this time, to wrap up and look into the camera and talk to your voters, talk to your constituents, and tell them your objective as a commissioner. And then, point us to your sites, your Facebook pages, where we can find you and follow you, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Okay. Just first and foremost, I born and raised here. Family's from Rocky Ford. Grew up in Arvada, Marine Corps from '86 to '90. Been in the construction industry my entire life. Worked with for XL Energy as a lead foreman for 9 years and a union steward at that time, standing up for the working man and women back then, as I am today. State representative, and now I'm running for Adams County Commissioner. You can find my information and take a look at my bio at philforadco.com. That's philforadco.com. Or philforadco@gmail.com is my email address. And I have several speeches on my Facebook, on my personal Facebook, Phil Covarrubias, or my Phil for Adams County Commissioner, and you can really go through and see if you like what I'm saying, and I just try to tell it like it is. I speak the truth. I speak without fear, because I think that more Americans, regardless of what political aisle you're on, are really sick and tired of the stuff that's going on. I know that there's a lot of Democrats who do not agree with what their leaders are doing. And so I ask them, then why continue to vote? Why vote Democrat just because you always have, or because we're blacks or we're Hispanics, or we've always voted Democrat because we're union guys? No, I think the time to really change this is now, because this is about our freedoms. This is not about political parties. This is about real facts, real truth, right here and now. And listen, thank you. I just cannot thank you enough. I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to sit down and talk with you, because campaigning is tough. You're out there every day, knocking on doors, putting up signs, trying to put stuff on social media, and it's not easy. If you go to the philforadco.com, there is a donate button. $10-20 helps us incredibly. It buys business cards and door hangers and signs and all the things that it costs. Gas for the truck. I'm driving. Adams County is huge, so I'm all over the place. And we definitely appreciate any help we can get. And God bless you all out there, you fine Americans. Thank you for hearing me.
Well, Phil, God bless you, man. And I'm behind you 100%. I was behind you like 60%, before you came. Now I'm in a hundo.
All right.
Phil Covarrubias. Did I get that? Covarrubias.
Covarrubias, Blonde Caves.
Covarrubias.
From Spain, it's Basque even.
CD5, Adams County Commissioner, Coloradans. Go vote for this man. We need men like him representing us. Thank you all for joining us today on Colorado Christian Conservative Political. Until the next time, I'm Joe Hunt. I will see you guys later.